All right, rock and roll. Welcome to the Scorched Earth Political Podcast. I am your host, John. And if you could, hit that like and subscribe button. If you're feeling a little risque, leave a comment. I always love the trolls. They give me energy. And we get new members every day. And basically, what we try and do is get a little more raw, unabridged, maybe honest look at what's going on in the world of politics, which honestly, 10 years ago, could you have imagined we'd be at this place? I mean, most of the audience is progressive. We do have some Republicans. I love all the Republicans. I love everybody. We're here to educate you. I can almost hear a laugh coming out of North Carolina right now. And here we welcome all, friend and foe, sinner and saint, and we're trying to get a more honest dialogue. And, we're taking no prisoners, telling no lies, and we're going to burn it all to the goddamn ground. All right, let's start with our first story. So on Wednesday of this week, we had a court. It was a 3-panel court, and it was the U.S. Court of International Trade. One of the judges was put there by Bush. One was put there by Obama. And one was put there by Trump. Okay, so we have two of the judges, 2 out of the 3 who ruled on this case, were from Republican administrations. All right, so they all ruled unanimously that the president does not have unilateral ability in the Constitution to impose tariffs without congressional approval. Now, I'm not going to expect you to remember this. That's why I'm here. I'm going to do the research. Okay. Hey, look, I'm not just a pretty face. And in 2017, when Donald Trump came in, he imposed tariffs, but he did get approval from the United States Congress. All right. Now we have a Congress that actually is moving away from their responsibilities. The biggest one so far has been the power of the purse. Donald Trump came in and said, you guys funded all these departments, USAID, all these, different departments. And he just came in and said, I'm just not going to send the checks. And Congress didn't say a word. Yeah, that silence you hear, that's Mike Johnson, that pussy, right? And they didn't say anything because they don't want to mess with the leader, right? And so we go down this road, and then Trump just starts putting tariffs because he thinks he can, because he said he was going to do it during the political campaign. And he has a Republican Congress, and they are not going to say no to him no matter what it is. I mean, there's rules of law. So this court, the CIT, of which two of the 3 judges were nominated and approved by Republican administrations, said that this isn't legal. In the Constitution, he has to get approval from Congress. Well, Don didn't dig that too well. So, he did what he laments about the Democrats. He went to court the next day and got an injunction. Hey, it's all part of it, right? That's how it is, right? Donald Trump has been claiming that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act grants him authority to do sweeping tariffs or bypass Congress. This is a 1977 law that he has cited as justification for the majority of his tariffs, including Liberation Day. These 3 judges didn't seem to think that was coincided with what the Constitution said about presidential authority. And please know that this is a president who just does what he wants. He doesn't really care what's in the Constitution. When they asked him on Kristen Welker, well, do you need to, abide by the Constitution? He goes, well, we'll look into it. It's the same problem they've had with Abrego Garcia, right? They didn't give the man due process. Also, that Guatemalan man who was deported back to the San Salvador prison also was not given due process. And basically in the Constitution, in Article 5, I believe it is, it says everybody in this country, regardless of citizenship or not, is given due process. When you're accused of something, when they're going to deport you, when they're going to put you in jail, you get a hearing in front of a judge. Well, this isn't going to be expeditious enough for the Trump administration and their mass deportation agenda, right? So at the end of the day, they're like, well, we can't be bothered by that. Well, you know what? God dang it. The Constitution is the Constitution. And it's like I tell you, in 4 years, when I'm the president of the United States, I'm going to tell you something. I am going to cut that check, not issue. I mean, cut that check to the Defense Department by $500 million. F you. Good luck. Go figure out how you're going to live on half a trillion. Live on half a trillion. Because, Doge comes in and they make all these sweeping cuts on, federal workforce, union rights, USAID, which is some of the best money we've spent. The millions and millions of people that have been saved in malnourished and war-ravaged and weather-ravaged countries who are saved because we gave them medicine, we gave them food. Yeah, it's the cheapest $3 billion we ever sent over there, because to whatever the country is, it wasn't one specific country, because it gives us soft power. The world looks at us like, hey, these are some good guys. We're going to give them some credence. But, we've lost that right now. It's like the kids say, they've lost some street cred, right? Well, these people are goddamn bullies. We're talking about North Korea, Russia, China. They're all jostling for power, right? Especially in the Congo, in Africa, things like that. So this decision for the pause followed several lawsuits, and it seems like Todd Tucker, who's a trade expert with the Roosevelt Institute, says this will do tremendous damage to Trump's agenda. The whole second term seemed to be Doge, deport, and trade deals. You know how he was going to do 90 trade deals in 90 days? That was 45 days ago. He hasn't made one trade deal, right? And the reason is, and we've talked about it, but I get new listeners. The reason he doesn't have it is because every item we make in America, they have to decide what the tariff is on it. Think about how many things we make in America. And let's say we're in an agreement with, say, France or the EU. Let's say the EU. It's a coalition of, I think, 20 countries that bargain as one. How many items does that 20 country block make? Sheep wool, a sheep wool coat, a sheep wool hat. Everything has to get a certain percentage. And that's why typically it takes 18 months to actually seal up the deal. They meet in Geneva, they drink their wine, and they sit in a conference room and start hashing it out all day. It's the unglamorous side of America. Donald just wants to make deals, but we need to make good deals for America, not bullshit deals that he can run across Fox News at night or News Nation, right? But going back to Todd Tucker, he said on trade in particular, why would any country waste time negotiating to lower its tariffs if he can't impose them in the first place? Now, this is going to be a real Rubicon for this administration, right? If the whole court upholds that he cannot impose tariffs, that's going to be a big problem. But there's another thing that comes in. So in part of this appeal, with this pause that we're going to have on tariffs, the Trump administration agreed to put all the tariff money since April 2nd, Liberation Day. That was actually April 9th, but I'm not going to get into the nuances because it bores the hell out of me, and I know it's going to make you turn this podcast off if you haven't already, is that we have collected somewhere upwards of $15 to $20 billion. This is according to Newsweek, who's analyzed Treasury data. We don't know the real number yet, okay? But if they decide, this judge does, and it's going to go to the Supreme Court, if they decide that this exceeds presidential authority, and everything I have seen says it will. I mean, literally, there was a court on Tuesday. No, you can't do this. Wednesday, there was another court. You can't do this. They went to the high court, the trade court. Then they got a federal judge to offer an injunction. At the end of the day, and it's, we don't know how they're going to react to it, but the courts are probably going to say this exceeds executive power, judicial authority in the Constitution. It's pretty plain that Congress needs to approve trade. That's just the bottom line, right? Well, they have to refund that money back to America. Yeah. Now, let's just say for a hypothetical sake, It's $35 million or $35 billion. Let's just say. And the only reason I'm using it is to break it down very easily. We have 350 million people. Everybody gets $100 back. They're going to get a check for $100, and it is going to destroy this administration. You know, here's also a nice little sidelight. Tucker also said that for goods already processed by custom authorities, that's since April 2nd, importers may be able to sue the administration. And we talked about a story from super producer Stacy. She has a friend, Eric, and he imported goods, I think from England, let's just say England, and he had $400 worth of goods coming in. He's just a small retailer, right? He has niche items. I don't know what he had, but he had $400 worth of items, and he got down there and they said there's going to be a $480 surcharge for the tariffs. And he goes, I don't have the money. And they basically told him, well, if you don't come up with the money, then you can never import again. So they're playing real hardball, right? Well, people like that can sue, right? They can sue because now you've got a very delicate situation, which the Trump administration, what a shock, didn't think out, is okay, the importer, let's just say the importer paid an extra $1,000, right? We're in class. Class is in session, okay? Scholar John giving you some economics. Let's say the importer paid $1,000 in surcharges, right? And then he had 10 widgets, and he put on a $100 surcharge on every one. Does he get to sue the Trump administration, or does the money go back to the customer? Because he could say, well, I didn't pass it all on to the customer. I only passed 50. I ate 500 and I passed on 500. That should be a really, really delicious little thing. You know, we're going to find out what happens there. I got a funny feeling it's going to be a tariff Christmas. I'm just telling you right now. Okay, we're going a little long, and I'm sorry about that, but I just, this administration is so bloody corrupt, it makes me sick. Let's talk about that human excrement known as Mike Johnson, the Republican leader of the House. And he went on Face the Nation, and they asked him questions about how are you going to cut $880 billion of Medicaid over the next 10 years? 1 in 5 Americans is on Medicaid. And he comes up with the usual bullshit Republican answers. We're going to do work requirements. We're gonna get the abuse and the neglect out of the system, even though every study done in Medicaid says it is about 98.5% efficient. Okay? There's no $880 billion in fraud. That's just a bullshit number he pulled out of his ass. Okay? I'm not saying he's gay, but he's got a lot of room there. All right? So he said GOP proposals are aimed at able-bodied workers, many of whom are refusing to work because they're gaming the system. You're cheating the system when we're coming for you. Well, let me give you some statistics I pulled out of the Los Angeles Times by columnist Michael Heslick. He said 44% currently, this is 2023 numbers, of Medicaid recipients work full-time. Full-time. 20% work part-time. With part-time is usually considered 16 to 28 hours. An additional 12% were not working because they were taking care of a family member at home. Oh, God forbid. God forbid we're taking care of somebody sick. 10% were ill or disabled. 6% were students. And 4% were retired. There's a whole 4% left. Now, let's just take $1 trillion. Let's just take $1 trillion, okay? 4% is 40 billion. That's a lot of money. I'm not arguing. It ain't 880 billion. These people are going to get screwed. Straight up. That's what's coming for them. And Mike Johnson lies like I breathe air. That is a reptilian creature out of literally, I mean, I'm telling you right now, when Abraham went to Sodom and Gomorrah and God said, can you find me a good man there? He went up and he saw Mike Johnson and he turned around and goes, no, you got to burn it all. You got to turn it all to salt. Because this guy is a soulless human being. And he is affecting kids. I have a great Republican friend. She is awesome. We disagree on everything. And she says, well, why do they want to cut a program that is so efficient and is so loved? And I said, it's only led by the Democrats. The Republicans, they all have health care. They don't care about anybody else. They don't care about the fact if you don't give Medicaid to young children, they grow up to have diabetes. They have long-term illnesses. That was the great thing about Obamacare. It was preventative medicine. So you don't get those big bills down the line. I think that's been proven over time, how effective that was. But Mike Johnson only cares about himself and his little, cuckold thing going on with Donald Trump and Elon Musk. I don't know. Whatever it is. But it's bullshit. And you're sentencing innocent Americans who have health care to taking it away because you're gonna gum up the system. Oh yeah. I heard a story by a Wall Street reporter this week that the Arkansas Medicaid system, they shut down the computers at 9 o'clock at night. What? Had a little power outage every night? Yeah, and they're looking for any reason to throw you off. That is what they are doing. And I'm telling you, they're going to do it with Social Security, but that's another argument. All right, that's enough for today. Thank you very much for being here. I love you all. We're in this together, and we're going to win because we're on the side of right, we're on the side of good, and we're fighting for democracy. Not just for ourselves, but for our kids, our brothers and sisters, moms and dads, and our kids' kids. Keep the fight up, and we'll see you soon on Scorched Earth.